Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Catching Zeez podcast. Today we're on episode 6, and we also have our guest from episode 3 back. It is Racecar627.
Hello. I have new and improved audio. So last time, I literally apologize. I had no way to record audio at the moment, and Zeez has helped me set up a new audio setup here, and hopefully it'll work a lot better and will sound a lot better from the last episode. So.
Yeah, I can already tell just from like my side, just speaking to you through Discord, it sounds so much better. So I'm really happy about that. Now we just need Emmy to get a better mic. But she's on it, so that's good. Hopefully all the podcasts from here on out will have, you know, not disgusting garbage audio.
Yeah, speaking of the podcasts from here on out, are you just gonna? I mean, like I think I talked about this with you a little bit already, but are you just gonna keep doing one-on-ones, or are we gonna do a big group call, or are you ever gonna do a solo cast? I don't really know.
It's funny because I actually thought about doing a solo cast last week because I asked Emmy to come on like pretty last minute because sometimes when I'm working on videos, the days get away from me, and I realized it was already like Saturday, and I was like, oh no, I haven't recorded a podcast. I think I maybe could do a solo cast, but I feel like it's more fun to talk with a friend as well. I feel like it's more interesting to have somebody like bounce topics off of, especially. But I do definitely want to have some group podcasts in the future. I mentioned that, but I wanted to like, you know, start off with some one-on-ones. But I think like for the next one, we might see if we can get like the little rookie and Emmy on at the same time, and then like maybe you and Emmy, and then like the little rookie and you or something. I don't know, and like maybe all three of us or something. I don't know. We could try something interesting there. I've also been looking at like getting other creators to come on potentially, so it's just something I'm looking into.
I honestly thought you'd do a solo cast this week because it's like, for the dear listeners, it's like 6:06 p.m. on Sunday, and don't you try to release these at noon every Sunday?
Around like 2 o'clock every Sunday.
We're already like way past that, so I thought I totally thought like, oh, I totally missed the ball this week. So, or you just want to record an episode. I didn't really know, but hey, we're here. Yeah,
no, I think it's I think it's fine because I've been really behind on a lot of stuff lately, mainly because outside of my apartment there has been these construction workers working from like 8 a.m. till like around this time. Luckily they ended pretty early today, and I think they're almost done with what they're doing, but it's been pretty frustrating, you know, having so much potential recording time being like wiped out. Because I typically like recording earlier in the day when I have more energy, and then like later in the day I focus more on editing, or I've been recently doing streams, so I have a little less energy for that. But you know, it's just like I feel like I can't really do much during the day because of all those loud construction workers. So I'm kind of used to being behind on things these past few weeks, but I just do what I can.
Have you listened, like, have you made a recording while the construction workers are out there? And like, can you hear them super easily? Like, how bad is it?
I think I would describe it as, at least for me, when I do like, when I have like gaming content or whatever. One of the games I've been playing recently is Tears of the Kingdom on my Let's Play channel. And typically whenever there's like, you know, little bits of noise, it's really not that noticeable, especially when the game audio will cover it up. But Tears of the Kingdom is a very quiet game where a lot of the soundtrack is just very ambient. So you'll hear like like very low construction workers like working outside, and it's also paired with a new neighbor that I have that is very loud. They sit outside almost every single day with their like 2-year-old, and their 2-year-old is like constantly like
I was
crying.
gonna say the kids, yeah.
Yeah, and they're right outside, and my window leaks like really badly. It has like you know, in the wintertime it leaks in a lot of cold air, and at the same time, it also leaks in sound really easily. So it's been rough dealing with both the new neighbors and the construction workers at the same time.
Is that your only bad neighbor? I feel like, you know, this is your apartment you have right now is the only place I guess you moved out to, but can you hear really easily through the units, or is it just when they're outside?
Just when they're outside. I've actually heard when they step inside, and it's completely muffled. Like, I can hear it, but the mic doesn't even come close to picking it up. And when I say I can hear, I can't hear what they're saying. I can hear what they're saying when they're outside, but when they step back inside, all I hear is...
going on to that, we were talking about podcasts earlier and just like what the future of this is. So were you inspired by any podcasts while making this? Like, what podcasts are you into?
Well, I actually do watch this group of, I guess, Smash YouTubers. They're a bit of an odd group. They're called The Underdogs, and they made a podcast like a couple years ago, and they've been kind of going strong with it. And I was watching another Fire Emblem YouTuber that I really love, DTM. He makes really, really good content, and he made like a podcast that like goes over like what the latest stuff is happening in the Fire Emblem Heroes game every month or so. And I thought when I was like watching some of these podcasts, especially when it has like more than one person on it, is that they just seem like they're having fun. And something that I've always wanted with YouTube is to have somebody else to like work with, because YouTubing, at least what I feel like a lot of people don't really know, if you're more shy and like scared to reach out to other people like I am, it can get pretty, I guess, lonely is what I should say, because not a lot of people I feel have the same drive to like create as I do. For example, there are a couple of YouTubers that I've like reached out to and, try to like talk about YouTube with, and a couple of them just didn't really seem that interested. They were more interested in doing their own thing. And it gets a little, disheartening to like realize like some people aren't as into it as I am, because like YouTube is like, 90% of my life, I feel like, and nobody else can really say that unless you're like, I don't know, one of the top creators, Mr. Beast or something. And it just like, it's like something I've always like kind of strived for, a connection where I can, talk to somebody who's like also really into creating videos and wants to improve their content constantly. Something like that, I guess.
Yeah, I totally get that feeling. Like when you're listening to a group, I just sent you an image of like
I see it. Yeah, I'll throw it up. Actually, I'll throw it up on the podcast. That's actually so funny. It actually is kind of like that, though. It actually kind of is.
You're listening to a group of friends talk. It's like, yeah, dude. Like it's like you're almost in the conversation too a little bit. Like I was mega into a podcast forever called the Procrastinators Podcast, and they had like 300 odd episodes until like a lot of the members dropped, and there's a lot of internal stuff that happened, and people kind of moved on with their lives, so it kind of fell apart. But for from 2017 or 2016 to 2017, all the way to like 2019, right before, about the start of the pandemic, this was like a podcast I listened to every single week, and like each episode was like 3.5 hours, and there's a lot of YouTube creators I liked watching. Well, we're all 3.5. I guess they changed around a bit, and their total length, but. It was just, it was like a lot of like B-tier celebrity, I guess, like really low key. Like it was like
niche internet micro celebrity.
Yes, niche internet micro celebrities. Yeah, the gathering.
I love that term. That's so funny.
And it was, I don't know. It was a great time. I got really invested in them as people, like, and it was really funny, but also sometimes serious. I don't know. It was just good. And it helped me, like kind of like the image. I felt like I understood them a lot as people almost. Just because they talked a lot about their lives in the show, and it was a good time. And aside from that, once they kind of folded, I bounced around a million podcasts, I guess, listening to stuff. Like PKA is like a big one. A lot of people like that I've listened to a bit recently, and then that's Painkiller already. It's like it was something that was related to the COD community like way back in the early days, but now it's more about now they're all older, like mid-30s, and they kind of talk about their life and stuff. I listen to PK a little bit, and then sometimes some like random solo podcasts. There's a roller coaster podcast I listen to called The Drunk Riders. There was a weather enthusiast podcast I listened to called Tornado Trackers for a little bit, and I don't know, they had a lot of really good episodes, and sometimes they're more topic specific, but I think the best ones again are just more personality related. A lot of the times, they'll shake up episodes by bringing people on, or they revolve around a specific topic that they can just expand on for a long period of time. And the cool thing is, like, it would be hard for us to do, like, a topic-specific episode when it's just two people, because there's only so much stuff that you have to say about one topic. But if you've, like, 6 people, they all have input on a topic. And especially if they're all niche micro-internet celebrities, they all have their own little twists, right?
Yeah.
I
think
know
6
you
is
might
a
consider
little
me to be
too
a
much,
niche really, really niche micro celebrity man. My epic my epic old YouTube videos from freshman year of college, let me tell you. But yeah, no, I don't have a lot of things I can say about content creation or anything like that, which I know you can, but at the same time, I think that's what makes it interesting. You know, everyone having different insights. I forget who the quote was from, but it's like, every single person has a bit of knowledge that you don't have, or it was like you can learn something new from every person you meet. Yeah, it's just really interesting. Speaking of PK, when I was on my trip to Kings Island, someone brought up a really good point, like that was on like their guest of the episode. He was basically like, human beings, the way that our brains are structured, like we all experience reality in our own unique way. Like the way we have emotional responses to things that we're interested in, the way that we perceive, like, you know, information is all completely different, but we're all like trying to drive towards like joy and stuff. But I think like through that drive of joy and like the difference of perception is like why we have so many different interests, I suppose. Like, for instance, like relating back to Kings Island, like to me, when I think about like roller coasters, it's like hard for me to like picture a reality in which I wasn't into roller coasters, because they're just like, they appeal to me so much from so many different like aspects. But like for other people, like I totally, like I get it, like it's a niche thing. But it's like other people are like that with trains or with cars or other things. I don't really know. I think those are mechanical examples, I guess, but maybe forms of art or stuff, you know. It's really interesting. And I think that a lot of people, especially like hobbyists, would say like, I think they probably agree with me. It's like, it's just hard to like think of a reality or a world that like you experience where you're not into that thing, that it just doesn't immediately appeal to you.
No, I totally get that. Like what you were saying about podcasts, the thing I really like about it is a lot of it is just kind of like unfiltered. It's not like, you know, for example, a lot of like big YouTube creators, they go through like lots of editing and whatnot. Like it just, you know, it's not always like just them. Whereas like the podcast, it's very laid back typically. And with it being so like unfiltered, you kind of just like really see what the person has on their mind without having to be like, okay guys, today we'll be digging a hole and seeing if we can get to China. Let's see how far we can get. It's like, you know, something stupid like that. But I totally get what you mean about like every person like being different and how they perceive reality. I like that though. It's like how you were saying, like you can't picture like a life where you are not interested in roller coasters. And it's like, I almost feel the same way when it comes to content creation, but there are so many other things that I'm interested in.
Oh, same.
And it's more,
absolutely.
The question for me, I feel like, is I don't know if I can picture not having content creation in my life, but it's more like, what if I did this instead? Like something that I really love is like psychology. I love computer programming. I love game design. Like what if I decided to just like, you know, only work at my day job, but work on like a video game this whole time? Like how far along would I be on that video game? What if I dedicated myself to art? What if I dedicated myself to this or that? And it just kind of makes you think like, where would my life like be at right now? And it's like, I'm satisfied with what I'm doing right now, but you know, you're always going to be striving for more, at least where I am right now.
Yeah, I guess related to that, I mean, maybe I do see a life where I'm not in roller coasters. Like if I were to just like never have the experience to go to an amusement park, for instance, if I wasn't born in a fortunate situation I am, like being born in America and having at least enough wealth, like my family, where they were able to bring me to parks when I was a kid, right? I guess, you know, that would be a great example of like maybe a situation where I wouldn't be able to or couldn't be able to get into roller coasters. And then another thing was like, I think just like anyone else, they're very terrifying. If I never got over that initial fear, like took the time to go on them, I would never have gotten into them. Did I ever tell you the story, or did I talk about it? I don't know if I talked about it last episode. I probably didn't. But the story of how like I kind of got into roller coasters, because it's really interesting.
I don't think you've told me this. No, I mean, you may have a while back, but I kind of forgot about it. But I'd like to see this because we kind of just been talking about it naturally. But for those who don't really know or haven't picked up on it yet, Race Car 67, you are a roller coaster fanatic.
Enthusiast.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Enthusiast, that's right. The enthusiast.
Yeah, I call them enthusiasts. It's very funny. Yeah, so I guess just a little context, like, so I have a lot of hobbies. Like when I talked about like storm tracking, like I'm sort of a weather enthusiast. You know, I'm into anime.
That's like a new one though, right?
Well, yes and no. It was actually like my first ever hobby, like when I was like 6, 7, 8, 9. And then
really?
For no reason, I really got out of it. And then I got back into it just through, I think after the Mayfield tornado happened in Kentucky, it made me be like, oh crap, like that's just like, it was such a significant event weather-wise that I just thought it was so interesting. And then I watched a lot of videos on it, and then I downloaded radar apps, and then the whole 2022 season, I tracked like every storm event. And then this year as well, I tracked most of them. Hurricane season coming up. I'm not super interested in hurricanes. I'm more interested in severe weather, as in like tornadoes and isolated thunderstorms and stuff. So
interesting.
Yeah. So I guess really going back to, because I was going to tell the story how I got into coasters. So back in the day, like my initial hobbies again were like weather stuff, and then I was also really into trains. So I was really into like Thomas the Train, like train sets and stuff.
I love that stuff when I was like 3, dude.
Dude, I had so much like the wooden Thomas sets. They were so nice.
I think really we have so many in the basement.
Yeah, I got so many toy and model trains, and that was like my big thing when I was a kid. And I guess why it kind of relates to coasters is like someone brought up a point. Someone I knew in college, like he's like, I've met very little coaster enthusiasts who either are or were at some point the train enthusiasts. Like it's just like a one-on-one almost, and you can kind of see the similarities. I guess it's a weird adverse vehicle used usually for transportation of people or on a fixed track, right?
Right.
And train enthusiasts really like just the ways that it goes through scenery and sets, and roller coaster enthusiasts.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, just how it ebbs and flows, and I think roller coasters do that, but even more interestingly, although the tracks just aren't as long, I suppose. But yeah, but going back into that, like so I always had like an interest in trains and stuff like that, and then I went. The first time I really rolled roller coasters, I have family out in California. We went to Disneyland when I was 6. That's unrelated because I don't really remember a lot of that stuff, but that's when I first started riding rides. And then it was 2009 at the time, spring break of 2009, and we were at Hollywood Studios, and they have a indoor launch coaster called Rock and Roller Coaster. It's an Aerosmith themed ride, if you're familiar. So with Rock and Roller Coaster, since it's a launch coaster, what happens is you go through the whole queue line, and when you emerge into the station, you're right next to the launch track. So what you do is when you finish the pre-show, they let you out into the station, which is this big like backstage loading area for the limo, because you're supposed to be with Aerosmith, like going to their show, and they're late. And
that's cool.
So this little limo train, the Vekoma limo train, pulls around and goes to the launch station, and then it shoots off like right next to the queue. And again, I was like a little chibi then, little guy, and I saw that, and I immediately started crying and freaking out, because I had no idea that I was going to do that. I literally, like, my parents were about to back me out of the ride, and this person like literally changed my life, and they probably had no idea this happened. But I was crying my eyes out. My parents were like, oh, they were like debating who was going to take me back, because like it was clearly like too much for me or whatever. And this like girl, I think she had to been like 14 or 13 at the time. This like teenage girl, she comes over, she like puts her hands, like she like taps on me, puts her hands on my shoulder, and she's like, it's gonna be like, she's like, listen, I know it looks really scary, but it's gonna be okay. Like the second it launches, all your fears are just gonna go away. Like it's just gonna be so much fun afterwards. You're gonna even forget that you were afraid. She's like, just believe in me, just like trust me and go on this. Like you're really gonna love it. Like she like hyped me up. She didn't have to do this. Dude, that's like
an anime backstory.
It really is. And after that, she was completely right, dude. The second the launch hit, I was just floored. I was so in love. And it has 3 inversions, or I think it has 3 inversions, maybe 4. I can't remember the layout. Anyways, but it features multiple inversions inside, so it's Disney's only inverting coaster. By the way, an inversion means going upside down for viewers' context. It's their most extreme, quote unquote, ride there at the parks there, and I don't know. I mean, it just blew my mind. I thought it was just so much fun. I couldn't believe it, how good it was. Like I could just talked about it nonstop for the rest of the trip. And I also thoroughly enjoyed all the other coasters we went on that trip, like Expedition Everest or Space Mountain. But obviously that one is probably the most extreme out of all of them on the Disney property. But after going back from that trip, like the second I got home, I started like looking at POV videos of everything. Because like my parents, like when we were leaving, they had mentioned, like, I'm like, oh man, I want to go back. Like, I really love roller coasters. Like, if you really like roller coasters, you should go to Cedar Point for your birthday. I said, yo, what's Cedar Point?
Oh, and then it just led you on the train of That's cool. That's cool. And you were how old at this? You said like 7 or something?
No, I was 8 turning 9, and then for my 9th birthday I went to Cedar Point. But basically from that time frame between spring break to summer, because my birthday's in June, that 3-month span, like I'd spent all that time. I found out all the coaster YouTube channels, and I just like explored the whole realm of the coaster universe, right? So they had playlists of every POV of every park they've been to. There's like David Jealous Coaster Forest theme park review at the time. I'm trying to think of other famous POV people that were around in the early 2000s. But yeah, they had playlists of all the rides they had recordings of, and then they also had stats listed. So like not only would I learn like the coaster, but I'd learn all the stats. Like I had it memorized in my head, like the height, the speed, the manufacturer, the length, the number of inversions, the type of inversions, like all of it. Like every day, I just like researched that. And then I went to Cedar Point that year, like right afterwards, and that was the first time I'd gotten on really huge attractions like Millennium Force. I wasn't tall enough for Raptor or Mantis. I was so small as a kid. I was not 54 inches. I was only 52. I just barely fit on Maverick at the time. I rode Magnum and all that kind of stuff. I did, dear viewers, this is the only time you'll ever hear this. This is the one time I ever chickened out on a ride. I chickened out on Dragster that year in 2009 when I first went. Top Thrill Dragster.
Wait, you were tall enough to ride Dragster? Really?
Yeah. The height limit for Dragster is 52 inches. Interestingly enough, it uses the same...
Isn't that's like the most intense ride they have there, though?
So, height limits are usually... manufacturer sets like a really low height limit. For instance, Millennium Force used the same exact T-bar restraint as Dragster, but Dragster's height was 4 inches taller. It was 52 instead of 48. And the reason being is because sometimes they'll gauge it off of the ride intensity as well. Like, it is disruptive to have like really young kids like crying on a load platform or like causing a scene. So sometimes they will like ramp up the height requirement to try to age limit a ride a little bit. So yeah, like that's an example. But usually they're like smaller than you might think. Like 48 might be the absolute minimum for the T-bar restraint. I don't think there's anyone that goes any lower than that for a height requirement. But yeah, so no, that was the one time I chickened out on a ride, and I was tall enough for that. I was not tall enough for Mantis or Raptor at the time. I went back 2 years later and did ride both of those, though, so it was fine. But yeah, no, I mean, that was like kind of the whole story.
Real quick, sorry.
Yeah, what's up?
Sorry to interrupt. Do you want to quickly explain what Dragster is for those who don't know? Because it's a pretty popular attraction at Cedar Point, like the main one.
Well, it's a complicated story to say what Dragster is at the moment. You're familiar with like all the things that happened with it, right?
Didn't it have like a piece fall off and hit somebody in the head or something? Yeah,
I might have talked to you about this. So, we'll just talk about what the original Top Thrill Dragster was. It was an intimate hydraulic accelerator coaster. So it uses a hydraulic launch propulsion system as opposed to most other rides that use usually linear synchronous motors, known as LSMs. There's a lot of other accelerator coasters like it, but it was, at the time, it was one of the 2 giant ones, that and King Dakar, which still operates to this day in its original form at Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey. But Top Thrill Dragster was a ride that was 17 seconds long. It was a very simple layout. It was a launch straight up a top hat and straight down. It would accelerate you from 0 to 120 miles per hour in 3.8 seconds.
In 4 seconds or something?
Yeah, 3.8. Yeah, and then it would go up 420 or 42-story top hat, which is a element where you go straight up and straight down, right?
Yeah.
And then the down, it was a 4.5-foot drop into like a 270 like spiral on your descent there. It's a really exhilarating attraction. It was a great attraction at the time. It might be even better next year, depending on what happens. But because it is reimagined next year, and I could go into details about that whole accident and history there, but that's a whole can of worms that'll take me a second to describe.
Yeah, I mean, we can do it if you're down to explain it. But
I don't really know how much the viewers care about me rambling about coasters for.
well, it's more just like the incident of like why it was like closed for like 3 years now or something.
I mean, so it could have reopened as it was before, but the old CEO, who was the CEO of Cedar Fair at the time that Dragster was installed, his name was Dick Kenzel, and he published a book and described in his book like how Dragster was their biggest failure because it was an absolute maintenance nightmare. The hydraulic launch system is extremely complicated and requires a lot of specific components that need to be independently ordered, right, and aren't mass produced. So it would have long periods of downtime for part replacements. Not only that, but the whole ride system was extremely complex. So it had I don't know how many magnets for the brake fins that would retract and go up and down on the launch track. Probably about, if I were to throw out, maybe like 250 or so pneumatic brake fins that would retract and go up and down each cycle. And if any of the pneumatic brake fins read a low pressure or read a bad current through that
then you
magnet,
just couldn't ride the ride.
No, the whole ride was shut down. It had so many components that it needed to constantly check, and it just, it was a maintenance nightmare. And on top of that, like, they had to have very specifically skilled staff constantly like on payroll to service Dragster because it had its own like whole service team. I think like per year they probably spent $1 million per year on just like maintenance alone on that ride. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a really, really popular attraction, and it was really groundbreaking for the time, just because of its sheer scale.
Yeah, like from a casual perspective, as somebody who's not like a thuzy, like whenever I would go there, everybody was like, "Yo, we gotta ride that. That's the biggest. That's the baddest one. You know, it's the coolest one. You're the coolest kid if you can ride the top throw Dragster.
You're the coolest kid if you ride Dragster." Yeah. So. Because of that mistake, though, even though the ride could have reopened in its original state, so basically, just to describe the accident and how it occurred, what had happened is on each of the trains, they had something called, it was like a steel L bracket that mounted at the bottom of the train that read over the proximity sensors called flag plates, and that's where you'd tell positioning on the track, right, because they'd read those proximity sensors. And one of the flag plates, it is held together with two bolts, right? It's fastened on the side of the train with two steel bolts. The steel bolts, both of them on that specific flag plate, were internally rusting. So unless you did like specific like NDT to like see the internals of it, which NDT again only like coats the outside of it, you couldn't tell that the bolts were failing. So it was kind of a freak accident. The fact that one bolt failed. And I don't know if it failed like several cycles beforehand or like the second it failed, it put too much stress on the other bolt and the other bolt failed because it was also weak. But I think one bolt failed and it fatigued the other one enough going through the cycle that eventually that one was also rusting internally, broke off. And Dragster's queue line sat in the middle of the launch and brake track. Like you sat in the middle of the ride to wait in line. I don't know if you rode it ever, Zeez.
I have. Okay, I rode it one time.
So remember when the train would brake, it'd be like right over your head or like right on the side, and they had a fence there, and but the fence wasn't very tall. So when it hit the brakes, the flag plate flew off over the fence and it struck a lady in her head. And now the thing about the whole flag plate thing again is it was a very freak accident. And I try to like stress this for people, especially who aren't like into roller coasters, just how safe and extremely reliable like they are. It's probably one of the most safest forms of recreation you can ever do is go on a roller coaster.
For sure. And this is like one accident, one time.
Yeah, out of 18 million riders.
How many times like people have ridden on that ride before?
Oh,
you're more likely to get struck by lightning or something. Is that like what the chances are?
Okay, so here's the chance of dying on a roller coaster. At the moment, according to IAPA, who manages a lot of they do like a big report on amusement safety. The death rate on a roller coaster at this point is 1 in 765 million. You're more likely to get struck by lightning on your way to win the Powerball than you are get struck by lightning. I think like 5 times in your life. again, your chance of dying in a car is like 1 in 68,000. Not to scare you or anything. Just for context, there.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the most safest forms of recreation. Again, it was just a really weird thing. There was a suggested modification of the flag plate, and they could raise the fence on that queue line there on the brake run. Both of those fixes would have like made this impossible to happen again. But because of Dragster's like reputation within the company, they just decided, you know, this is a good time for us to close the attraction. This bad thing happened. Now it's solely the name completely. I mean, after an accident like that happens, yeah. I mean, it just tanks a ride's reputation and how the park views it. So, or how the public views that ride. So
I would figure, yeah, especially people who aren't like super into it, right? Because if I'm like a casual and I hear ride hurt person, I'm like, ride bad, ugh, ride bad.
So I kind of think that too, but like there's other attractions that had worse accidents and reopened. They're still really popular, so I don't really know.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think people kind of forget about it too. But it does make it look bad. But because of that, they really wanted to probably do something with Dragster for a long time, and this finally gave them the opportunity to do something about it. So what they're doing right now is they contacted a company called Zamperlo based out of Italy, and they recently unveiled their lightning trains, and they're actually doing a retrofit like change of another hydraulic launch coaster in Italy. And so they just tacked onto it, and they're going to put on those, I mentioned it earlier, LSM or linear synchronous motors. They're like the modern version of launch coasters. They're almost all LSMs because they're way more reliable. Way more consistent. Like, it's basically a reliability thing. Think Maverick at Cedar Point, by the way. Think at the same park. That's an LSM launch coaster. Has way less issues than Dragster. They're gonna redo the whole launch section and include LSMs. But the thing is, LSMs are not as powerful as hydraulic launch coasters are. So you can't make it over the top hat. It won't be as
fast.
They're not. You can't accelerate as fast. They're not as powerful. It's just a power issue, right?
Gotcha.
So you're not gonna make it over the top hat. What they're gonna do is recently. Intamin has been doing this a lot with their newer launch coasters, where they'll have something called a swing launch. So you'll come in and you'll do one launch, and it goes partially up the top hat. It won't make it. Then you'll roll backwards. You'll launch backwards into a spike that goes. So you'll go straight backwards, straight up in the air into a spike, and then you'll come down and do 1/3 last launch, and then that'll be able to clear the top hat. So that's what they're gonna be doing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the whole thing is like over the winter, they took out segments of track from Iron Dragon and installed this giant triangular like reinforced like truss, and then they put 3 massive footers in there, then refilled the lake because the spike's gonna go over top Iron Dragon. If you know what Iron Dragon was, it's like the family ride that was over like the little lake portion there with a water fountain in the middle. So. Yeah, it's going to probably feature like a 500-foot spike, and it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to add a whole new aspect to the ride, but it won't have as powerful of a launch, so that's going to be gone, unfortunately. And Zamperlo is not a very well-known manufacturer. Like they haven't done a ride on this scale, so a lot of people in the coaster community are a little concerned. But I'm optimistic. I think that Zamperlo is they're very mature. Like they're very old. They've done a lot of projects. Maybe not on an extreme coaster scale, but they have a lot of reputation and experience. So I think that it's overall going to be pretty cool. Yeah, sorry for that massive tangent, dear viewers.
No, sorry. I think I get it. It's fun to hear what you're passionate about. I did have one last question to kind of tie up this segment.
Sure.
Is what would you consider? Now, this is probably an insanely hard question for you, but what would you consider your top 5 coasters to be?
Steel Vengeance number 1, Velocicoaster number 2, Iron Gwazi number 3, Voyage number 4, and Maverick number 5.
Okay, never mind. I guess that was easy.
I have a ranking, man. I'm trying to make like a top 150.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I know you have like a list of every coaster you've been on. What's the number at right now? I forget.
At the moment, it's 215 roller coasters I've been on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And by the end of I know you were like doing some more trips this summer. Are you gonna try and make that number go up anymore? Or are there any places that you're looking at?
I don't really have time, I guess, to get on any more major trips. There's a small Wisconsin loop I can do, like just on a weekend that I could get a couple more credits in. I've only done the Dells which I did with you when we went to Mount Olympus. You have it on YouTube actually, that trip.
That's true. That's true.
The
That's right.
lost
My face is
episode.
technically on YouTube.
Yeah. And so that's the only park in Wisconsin I've been to. So there's like Santa's Azumet Village, like on one of the sides of Chicago. Then they have something called Little America, which is in the middle of Wisconsin. And then I'm trying to make my way all the way up to Green Bay to ride a single roller coaster there called Zippin' Pippin that operates at a park called Bay Beach Amusement Park. It's literally ran by the city. And then they have the Zippin' Pippin was like a really old ride that was recreated there. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Interesting. No, it's always so fun to hear you, go into roller coasters. Because, like, for me, again, I like roller coasters, but I'm not, like, an enthusiast, as you would call them. I'm kind of just like, yo, when it's time for roller coasters, I'm down, dude. I'm down. But when you were talking about, like, the stuff that you were interested in, like, when you were a kid, like, the whole weather thing, I was not, like, super into that kind of stuff, but it reminded me of something that I used to do all the time with my dad. We would look up just videos on YouTube together of just lava. We would watch lava. Yeah, we just like watch lava. And I don't know why I was so into it. Like, it would just be lava moving. And we just like click on YouTube videos. It's like, okay, there's some lava moving. And then we click on the next one. There's just lava. I don't know why. It was just like something that was really fascinating to me as a kid. Because I guess I was just fascinated by the fact that like I was in a safe place, but I could like look at this very dangerous thing. And there were a couple times where it was like, oh, guy throws rock into middle of lava. And then he'd like just kind of see, or, it's like sometimes the lava's like really dark, but when you throw like the rock into it, it like,
lights up
like
and
splashes
it, like,
the little
everywhere.
lava. Yeah, and like I was just like super into those videos when I was a kid. I remember there was also like a video of like a guy like stepped on the edge of lava and like his shoe immediately caught on fire. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's gonna die. He stepped in lava. His foot is melting off. But like, it wasn't like that. But it's like, it just reminded me of like that stuff when you're a kid, because you're so fascinated by everything when you're younger.
Yeah.
And like, if I watched lava videos now, I'd still be like, oh, that's cool. But like, this is back when I was like 7 or 8. So like, YouTube videos, they weren't nearly, as, I don't know, trying to catch your eye as possible. They're just like, yo, here's a cool video I uploaded to YouTube, and it's just like you just watch the lava go. Whereas like now you can just look up like top 10 lava incidents, lava kills a guy, or just I don't know, it's something stupid like that.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just like you go down this rabbit hole of just like watching stuff they're interested in. I just don't remember. I just when you said you were like looking up all like these weather things, it made me just think of like looking at it's like natural, like destructive, like lava. Or I think I like watched storm videos when I was younger too, but it was mainly like the lava. I don't know why I was like really obsessed with that. It was like something that we would like do every once in a while too. It was like, yo, can we get some more lava on the YouTube? I don't know.
The kids yearn for the lava vids, dude.
I know, dude. I don't know why I was like just super into it, but I guess I was.
Is there anything that you've gotten into as an adult?
I guess I think it's tough because I've always been interested in like so many different things. And one thing that I've been trying to do more is like getting into like music playing with like the violin and whatnot, because it's something I've always wanted to do. Because back in middle school, the only instrument that I played was a trombone for 30 days. And I was never notified that there was supposed to be like a summer camp that would teach you about how to play the trombone a little bit before you started in school. So I went in on the first day with my trombone that I rented, and like everybody was like,
already playing
2-3 weeks ahead of me, and I was like, how are you guys doing that? And like the teacher, I kind of was like really mad about this. He knew I didn't go to the summer camp, but he kind of just expected me to like keep up with everybody, even though I had no idea what I was doing. So what I did in the trombone section, anytime I would play, I would just look at the person next to me and copy what they were doing. Constantly. Like if they went out, I'd go out. When they went in, I go in immediately. I wouldn't even do anything by myself. Like they were looking at like the sheet music. I was not even looking at the sheet music, dude. I was only looking at the person next to me and trying to match where the position of their trombone was. And what made me quit the class was when we actually had to take tests solo. Yeah. And I was like stuck in this room. Nobody was in there, and I kept listening. I couldn't copy anybody. So what I did was you had like a computer, and you were supposed to replicate the sound that it made, and I just couldn't do it for the life of me. I just like was crying in that room, and I sat in there for like 30 minutes, and then the teacher came in and was like, "Yo, are you done yet? This is supposed to take like 5 minutes," and I'm like, "I can't do it. I don't know how to play." it was really sad. So I eventually dropped out of that and went to choir. It was just a weird thing, but it's like that was like the one time I tried to play an instrument. I think like that made me like not try for a long time because I've always wanted to learn how to play like 3 instruments: the piano, the flute, or the violin. I've always loved all 3 of them, even though they're like pretty classical ones. It's something that I've wanted to, try and get into more recently because I just never got into as a child. But I'm sure there's like plenty of other things that I'd like to get into more, while I'm older. I'll probably think of some more later, but do you have anything that you would say you've got into, like, as you got older?
Absolutely. Well, first, quick comment. I also played trombone, but I played it from 6th grade all the way to sophomore year of high school. I don't remember there being a summer school, by the way. That was a long time ago, so I have no idea. But yeah, no, weather's a big one just because that was something I totally, like, separated myself from and got into a lot much later. But another one is music related. I was never into any band, but I got really into the band. I am really into the band called the Grateful Dead. They're sort of, your dad probably knows them. Sort of. What
kind of like genre do they make?
Yeah, so they're kind of popularized the idea of like the what is modern day called like the jam band or the jam scene. And they're kind of like every genre to an extent. So they're very Americana. So they have jazz influence, psychedelic rock, classic, lots of really just interesting, unique styles. And what I just really love about it is the idea in the jam scene is like the live music is more important than like the studio recordings or like an album. Like no one talks about the albums there. It's all about like the shows. And what it simulated is it simulated this massive database of recordings of shows all the way back from 1966 to 1995 when the band separated. But
okay, so they had a long running then.
Yeah, but they're still technically are running. So tonight actually is the final concert of the biggest rendition post Jerry, which was the lead guitarist when he passed away in '95. Is called Den Company. Their last show is tonight in San Francisco after like 10 years or 8 years of playing on like a large scale. But it has most of the remaining members, but no, all of the remaining members have like done tons of project with the music. Also, like they're pretty much like the most covered band of all time. Like there's Grateful Dead cover bands everywhere. So the music lives on. And additionally, when I was talking about like with jam bands, like there's a whole jam scene. And there's so many young artists that love the Dead that either play them now or they play like their own genre of music. It's like there's Goose that's being huge, Billy Strings is huge, Fish is the other big band. Sort of near the end of the original Grateful Dead, they got big and they're still big now. So it is the scene and the music is never really gonna die. It's really, really timeless actually, just because all the songs they're not really like defined by a time period. Maybe by the style of music that's played, but not entirely. I don't know. They're so open and freeform, and there's so many different ways to express them and have been expressed like online. It's just really interesting. But for me, like I'm a bit of an obsessive. So since there was all these databases, there was really just a lot of material to sink my teeth into. And I mean, some songs are even like they have like not every song was like this long, expansive thing. A lot of them were like really short rockers. But even the short rockers like were played really differently. But like the more expansive stuff, I mean, every Dark Star is just so different. Like that's like their quintessential like song. Like if you listen back to recordings of it, yeah. So it just like one would be like 11 minutes, the other one would be like 38 minutes, and just would entirely they just go on entirely different paths. They would never be the same, but they were also the same song, where they come to the same points and sort of the same, maybe sometimes the same feeling, but maybe not. But there's so many different iterations through every like version of the band that existed, and even to the day that of like the ways that the jams evolved in each of the songs, and then as they introduced new material, how it affected the music. It's really cool to listen to because it's so well documented. Like they're probably the most well documented band ever. Like Jerry Garcia, upon his death, was easily the most recorded guitarist of all time. And I think because Bob Weir's done so much stuff, which is the rhythm guitarist, he's probably the most recorded artist of all time. Like just in terms of pure amount of like time that you could take to record it. You know, just the Grateful Dead alone would take you over, I think, like 6 or 7 or 8 months to listen to the like nonstop to listen to every show, and every show was different. The set lists were entirely different every night, and that's what like brought this whole like recording scene out, is because the shows were all different, right? So you'd want to record each show to like figure out, oh hey, like I got to catch this, like I got to be here on this night. There's some like really...
Dude, that's so cool, actually. What the heck?
Yeah, there's some really... And the cool thing is because you're not there to expect the album when they play a song, you're able to just enjoy... Like, if they mess up, like, the audience is so forgiving because they're able to explore and to play the songs however they want to play at the time. And whether it's amazing or not, I mean, it's your version of the song that you got, but also, like, you know, again, everyone's just so forgiving, like, because they're not coming in with an expectation of how a song should be played. It's about like they want to hear what the band's gonna play at the time, and it's about because you're there for the moment. Like it's all about the moment, right? So it's just really cool. Also, the scene's really nice. It's basically modern day hippies, like all generated through the Grateful Dead scene. Like it's like the big the big counterculture is all through them. So it's a shame the Dead Company's ending literally tonight, but it's, you know, I don't know. It introduced a lot of people to the scene that wouldn't have been before, and there's a lot of people playing the music and playing different types of music related to it that is just so interesting. And they just tour all the time, so it's really easy to catch a show. They're always way cheaper than most pop shows and stuff. And I don't know. Everyone's so kind when you go there. It's just a good time. So.
Yeah, that just sounds like good vibes all around. When you said like it would take like 7 to 8 months to watch all their shows, the first thing that came to my mind was like, wow, that's longer than One Piece.
Yeah, it is.
But like, that's crazy to think about. Like how, I mean, it makes sense because like if they've been around for, when did you say the 60s when they started?
Yes, they started at 65 and really started making recordings in like 66. It's like one of their first shows.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then they ran.
So I guess it does make sense, dude. That's a long time.
You know, and it's crazy to think that come 2025. It's been longer post than it has during the Dead, and again, even since 95 onward, every single one of the people that were in the band that were alive, the remaining members, have constantly been creating their own versions of the music and have been playing together still, and been playing with other people, that for now almost 30 years as well. So that all is just piled on as like post-Dead content that is just so great. Because I think like especially with the dawn of the internet, like people can just listen back to like all those recordings, different ways of playing, and they could just figure out like what works for their band, right? And so you have all these people who are just like coming up with their own ways of playing the music, or just like finding different, again, like I said, there's other jam bands that are popular that play entirely different music, just like, you know, ways that the jam scene can evolve. It's just really cool.
That is really cool, especially for like, I think just people getting into like music creation as well. You get to like see these people, see how like they adapt other music all the time. Like I think that's probably gonna be really cool. Would you say at all that you're interested in like, I know you said you played trombone, but like, I don't know if this has like any influence on you, but like, would you ever be interested in like, you know, like picking up a guitar, just like any other instrument, just kind of like learning how to play it, or?
100%. So like when I played the trombone, I quit playing the trombone to take like more engineering classes in high school. And while like I totally agree that was the right thing to do at the time, I just like never cared about music. The only like music I would listen to in high school was like anime OSTs or video game OSTs.
I mean, for me, it's like still 99% video game OSTs. But like, if a friend sends me a good song, I'll typically listen to it, and then that might make me go like down on a rabbit hole. But for the most part, I'm still kind of in that phase. But I can appreciate other music outside of it. It's just that like I'm bad at reaching out towards it, I guess, on my own.
Yeah, so like I never like cared about music as a genre. I wasn't intelligent on it. I still am not. Like super intelligent.
I mean, I'm not at all.
But I think I would love to learn an instrument. I have a very, I would say like overactive imagination, and the thing about like what I really like about the jam scene is like I'm constantly like when I'm always like thinking and like creating stuff like just in my imagination a lot, and I constantly am like playing my own renditions of a lot of their songs. and like different
that's
bridges.
so cool. What
Yeah,
the
all
heck?
the time. Like just how
Yo.
just because it's so, I don't know. It just, to me, it just ebbs and flows. It like perfectly matches in my mind just how to continue a jam out, and just like that, just like way of music is just so cool. So I if I were to learn anything, I think I'd learn piano. The reason being is guitar. It's gonna sound really weird. I think guitars are like awkward to hold almost. Like on your left hand, like when you're trying to make like a key, or like when you're going up and down the neck, it doesn't feel right on my wrist. A piano feels very right because it's a keyboard. It's just super easy. Plus, piano, when you learn that, it can translate to like literally every instrument because it's so key dependent. Also, like electronic keyboards, like you can make any type of music with. Like you could do percussion through a keyboard. You can do bass through a keyboard. You can do guitar through a keyboard. It won't sound exactly right, but I mean, I think electric like pianos are pretty fun. Just all the little things you can do to change your sound super easily.
I used to have like one that like kids could play with. There was like 100 different like sound fonts on it. Those are so fun. I didn't have machine gun, but I had just like, we had like ones that would just be like all sorts of different instruments. There are even just like some that were just voices, or just be like or whatever. It was cool. It was like 100 different things, and that's what they advertise the piano as. And of course, since we're kids now, like if I go and find that piano, I'm sure there's like 10 broken keys on it. But that was like something that we always used to play with as a kid. But we never like really learned anything beyond like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or anything, where you go ding 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 ding. And it's like, it's like, I'm so good at music, guys. I play Twinkle Twinkle.
Dude, I have like kitty keys. I have a full piano at my parents' house. I just never, like, my sister took lessons and everything. Like I said, I just never cared about music. Also, my uncle even, for instance, just for record, my uncle like played in multiple bands, like toured even in Europe and stuff.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, my dad's sister married him, and he was super huge in the Bay Area, so San Francisco, like 1980s, like rock scene, like metal scene, like super into it. He played in a ton of bands, like some that got fairly popular and stuff. He's a huge musician. So he tried to even get me into music at the time. I just like never cared, I guess. But I finally found a reason to care. And I think again, like The Dead, like how it like appealed to me personally, because I've never been super into like I do like some heavy metal, but like I've never been into like heavier rock sort of stuff. I've always liked classic rock. Like I always like something that sounds a little more beautiful, I guess you could say, a little bit more like just like a little quieter, a little more folk rock, right?
Yeah.
A little more folky. So so they're a lot. They're not heavy at all, despite the name The Grateful Dead and all their skull imagery. It's very, not at all what you think it'd be when you see that. And so that, and then, like I said, again, I never realized that I liked improvisation so much. Like, it never occurred to me until I listened to one of their live recordings, just out of a whim, that I liked it. So I would like it so much. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of how it appealed to me, and it got me really interested in music again. So, yeah. Although I would say,
I think that's cool.
I would say, like, puts me in a rut where, like, it's hard for me to listen to music kind of outside jam groups for like The Dead. Same with with anime. Like for the longest, even to this day, I'm like this. I haven't like watched any like the really popular like TV shows, like live action TV shows, just because like they aren't animated. Like I have to like, because like my interest is in anime. Like I feel like I almost in pressure. Like when I'm by myself, like the only things I want to watch are anime to continue my interest in that thing. I guess if that makes any sense.
I definitely know what you're saying about that. I think I was actually talking about this, I think maybe on stream or something, but I think one of the biggest things that really helps you expand, like get into like different genres of just like any medium, is like a connection, like with through friends. Like a friend or something.
Yeah,
like
you talked about on stream last night.
It's one of the biggest things that I find, because like, no offense, but like I like roller coasters, but I'm not gonna be like, super like mega interested. But when I hear you talk about roller coasters and you get so hyped about it makes me feel hyped too. Because you're my friend. I'm like, yo, that's cool. Okay, tell me more. And like, even though like a lot of the technical terms might just fly over my head, it's just like, you really know your stuff. You really know like what goes into this. And it just like kind of makes me think more about like, how these roller coasters were made, like who made them, the history of them. Like it's cool because like that applies to everything, right? And I feel like even something that I'm not particularly interested in, like let's say sports, I think sports is probably like one of the most boring things to watch. Like I can't stand watching football, golf. Like all my family members love that stuff. They always have it on every time I go visit them. It's like they love watching golf. I don't understand. Golf is so boring, bro. You just watch guys stand around, they hit a ball, and then it flies. It's like, just go play Mario Party golf. You have more fun. Sorry. Like, I think mini golf is fun because there's like, you know, little attractions and like little rivers, and it's pretty. But like golfing is so lame, bro. It's like, how am I supposed to get into golf? I would need somebody to like be super into golf and like be hyped about it. I'll just be like, you know, this is my Tiger 2079 Tiger Tar Super Club. It has a steel back of whatever. If you hit the ball at this mile per hour, then it will fly, but it also has a slight curve to it. And I'm like, bro, you're just saying words. Just hit the ball with the stick. Like, yes, I know it's so mean. Like, people actually enjoy golf, but I just like, I don't get it. You know, it's stuff like that. And like the same with like football. I just can't get into it. I just think it's really boring to watch. And of course, that's just me. That's literally just my own opinion.
Exactly.
But again, I never had somebody who would like really get me into it. Because like, I think it also could be like a generational gap. Whereas like my dad tried to get me into like football, like sports when I was younger. I just like didn't really find it entertaining to watch. I didn't like playing it. All the people in my school who like played sports were very aggressive. They were like, let's go. I'm a jock, bro. Hit the ball. And I'd just be like in the corner, like scared, like, I just want to draw Kirby. Like, it's like that kind of stuff. But if I had like a friend who is, you know, more tame, like more something I could like relate to, and they were like, hey, let's do this, I'd have more fun with it. Like, I think one of our good friends, Eric, he actually got me to play like basketball a little bit. And I had never thought I really liked basketball. But I played with him and a couple of others friends, and they were just being really chill. They weren't like, you know, going super hardcore about it. Yeah. And we were just having fun, you know. Like they didn't. Every time I would play basketball in high school, every time I would like miss a shot or not pass it, all these guys would just jump me and be like, "Yo, you should have done this. You should have done this." I'm like, I don't even know how to play the game. I just like when they throw the ball to me, I immediately like dribble it once and throw it to somebody else because I'm so scared of getting yelled at. But like when I was just like, you know, chilling with a friend, it didn't even matter. Like, if we broke rules, nobody cared because you're just, you know, chilling with them. And so that felt like I was actually having fun playing it. So it's just like having, you know, the right person to connect you to a certain thing makes things a lot more fun to do.
I totally agree, man. There's a lot of things, again, like just by experiencing with friends that I really enjoyed. Same with like sports. So like, for instance, I was never, I guess my experience with sports isn't necessarily even just playing them. What I got into was like when I went to college, to have a team to root for your college and also to be with friends who are rooting for the team, it just like gets me super into it. Like for instance, my roommate was super into the Boston Celtics. Like I didn't care at all about the NBA, but he'd always be watching the Boston Celtics. And I was just like, I just sat down and watched them because I thought I actually kind of liked watching basketball a little bit. So I sat down and watched them. Like I just got like super into like the Celtics just because he was so into it. Right, it was just so much fun to watch with him.
I have to ask, what is that? I'm sorry.
The Boston Celtics is the NBA team for Boston. National.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess I assume that's what it was, but I just wanted to make sure.
I can't talk intelligently about them. Just saying, I'm not like super into them, but yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't even know what they were called, so.
Yeah.
But no, I get that. That's cool. It does help to have like somebody else that's interested.
I see a little.
Like, literally, the only. Sorry, real quick. The only sport that I played really was a solo sport. I just ran. Like in middle school, I did running. I did track. But like that's a solo sport. You don't like really work with a team unless you do like, you know, hand off a little whatever to somebody else. But for me, I just like ran 1600, 800, which were like a mile and half a mile. And I thought that was, you know, easy because I only had to rely on myself. So like if I performed badly, I could only blame myself. It had nothing to do with my team. So it was a lot easier for me to do something like that, at least with like a sport related thing, because it was just not in a team.
Yeah, no, I hated track, by the way. I did track in middle school as well. I did like cross country a lot though, and also the cross country mountain biking, which is another small hobby of mine. But, so Yeah, I see like people like getting into stuff that I'm in, like related back to roller coasters. Like I definitely like have gotten some of our friends, like in our friend group, more into coasters, just through osmosis, like them just being with me and like them like if I have friends that are down for adventure, I'm going. I think Kings Island, what I went to yesterday, was of all the parks I've been to this year, just parks alone, not how many trips I've done. I've been to 1, 2. I think I did 6 in Florida, 3 in Iowa, 2 in Ohio. 1. Okay, so I think that was my 11th park this year that I've been to. So like I'm always like travel. So if you're like down for adventure and travel, it's one of the most fun things about the hobby is like it forces you to travel and go out and go to cities you've never gone to before to go ride new coasters and.
For sure, and that's like something I want to do more. So like I definitely would have gone with you to Kings Island, but like if I wasn't. Yeah, it was last second, but I also am like so behind on work, and it's like that's the thing is like I think one thing that I'm gonna have to like force myself to do more is to like just like accept the fact that like I'm behind on work sometimes and just be like, you know what, let's just take a day off and just like go to a roller coaster park with my friend or something. It's just like I could take a day off,
right?
I'll still be there when I get back, and like it's just I don't know. I always just get in that mindset where I just feel like once I'm behind, I'm like I cannot fall behind. So.
No, dude, you're definitely a workaholic, man. We kind of talked about the last episode where you delve really deep into like your habits. Yeah, I mean, not to shame you or anything. I mean, it's good that you're so passionate about this, as you should be. And I'm happy for you. But obviously, yeah, you definitely need a more. Everyone needs a healthy like work personal life balance. So
for sure.
Related to YouTube, since it's what you're into so much. I brought this up before we started our stream, and I know you talk a lot, like in every single episode you've talked about trends. Here's a YouTube trend that I didn't reveal to you that I think is actually kind of cool, but it's like something that like little kids are really into. But I actually think it's pretty neat. So on YouTube Shorts, there's a series called Skibidi Toilet. I don't know if you've seen it.
That sounds very vaguely familiar.
So what it is it like you actually might like it given the generation of internet you grew up in. So like it's homage to like the old Gmod style of animation because it's all made in Gmod, this whole series, right?
Interesting.
So I'm sure you watched plenty of Gmod animations kind of like when you were younger, maybe. And what like literally it's hard to describe what it is, but I can't.
Wait,
like,
I have seen this.
Yes, yeah. If you look it up, you'll know what I'm talking about. Dude, look at the view counts. Look how much views. It's actually insane. Like go
78. I have seen this. I saw a clip of this. I just didn't know what it was called. Oh my gosh.
What I like about it is it turned itself into this whole series, and this guy has legit talent, like in Gmod animation. Like some of these, like especially in the later series, like later episodes, like there's these massive, like you say, like monster or mecha fights that are like scaled to, like from a first-person perspective, and the cinematography and the different ways that like he conveys like action is like really cool, and like he like adds in like little references to like modern day, I don't know, like modern day like sounds, I guess you could say.
There are 15 seasons?
Yeah, no, it's a whole.
What the heck?
If you look it up, that people like will make like full series videos. Like every episode that comes out, and they all get like 2 million views in a day.
Dude, these have crazy. What the heck?
Yeah, the most recent episode I think came out like 12 hours ago and has 21 million views.
Oh,
this guy makes almost exclusively YouTube Shorts and has 20 million subscribers. It's actually crazy.
Dude.
Some of these have like 123 million, 139 million views. No, 189 million. I'm trying to look. 192.
Yeah, 130 million. Dude, these have crazy views.
I know.
I mean, shorts do get more views, but even like the regular video versions, like 23 mil, 22 mil, 12 mil, 30 mil, 35 mil.
And it's so funny. You'll look it up on YouTube and you'll see all like those kid animator channels. Like it's like Poppy Playtime versus Skibidi Toilet or whatever. I'm like,
no.
I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Gosh.
I'm literally a YouTube child now, dude. I'm into the childverse.
Oh, no.
There's something I think that's actually kind of cool that kids are also into. No, you know exactly what I mean.
Silly.
It's like the Elsa Gate stuff,
yeah.
dude. This is the Skibidi Toilet's now in the Elsa Gate universe.
Yeah, dude. Like I think it's like back in like 2016. I remember like so much of like the Elsa, Spider-Man, whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's just like I get a lot of people like that also talk to me about this kind of stuff, and I just like don't really know how to respond because I'm not that interested. But it's like, there's like the Roblox, Friday Night Funkin' mods, Poppy Playtime. A new big one is like a Man of the Adventure or whatever. It's like all that like, it's like horror almost, but like for kids. And like the Hello Neighbor, Five Nights at Freddy's. It's like that kind of stuff like doesn't really interest me. At least like the like young kiddo horror or whatever. And like it's so hard to be like, it's hard to be like whenever people ask me about it. It's just like I'm not really that interested. Sorry. It's just like it's kind of funny though.
Yeah. Speaking of that, when I was at Kings Island yesterday, I saw 2 kids walking around. One had a Five Nights at Freddy's shirt on, and the other one had a Siren Head shirt on. Like these little like
what?
Like little 7-year-olds. I'm like, Siren Head? What? like to me, like these kids are like so into like them as like characters or like things.
Yeah.
Like to me, they're just like little internet stuff that I know of, like in the background.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's crazy because like they love that stuff. Yeah.
The kids yearn for the horror.
I know they love it. I think it's just because it feels like cool or like grown up or whatever, maybe. Like that was like our Slenderman, I guess. That's like
yeah, I'm sure you remember the Slenderman craze when we were young, and then also like sort of Herobrine, sort of a lot of the creepypastas, a lot of the
I feel like some of those are still around though.
It is. Some of the SCP stuff was really popular when we were younger too, so.
Yeah, we weren't like, you know, glue sniffers at that age, but we were like glue connoisseurs.
What is the term glue sniffer from?
Dude, I just think it's just like, you know, like kids will just like sniff glue because they're stupid.
Oh, because they think it'll do something?
I don't know. No, it's just because they're stupid. So it's like, it's just a term. It's like glue sniffers because they're like kids play with glue. And I just think like, you know, calling like the next step above a glue connoisseur. This is so funny.
Yeah, we were more cultured back then.
I've always loved the term glue sniffer. It's so funny because I just imagine a kid just like was sniffing some glue. It's so funny to me. I don't know why. I should not be laughing this hard. It's not that funny. But I totally get it. It's just like, it's so odd to me that like little kiddos will see these things and we'll get like super hype and be like, you know, create like fan content where I just see it and I'm just kind of like, huh, yeah, that's a thing.
All right, so speaking of following trends, so when's the Zeez Skibidi toilet video coming out?
Oh my god!
It seems to like all the videos that people are making on it are getting lots of views. So
I'll have to at least take a look. I don't know if I can just like force myself to make a video. I have to be at least somewhat interested.
So you might like it.
I've literally only seen one clip. I saw one clip and it was just like a bunch of, it was like 8 guys. It was like a Hydra toilet basically. It was like 8 guys' heads coming out of a single toilet. That's the one clip that I saw of it, and I was like, I have no idea what this is, but that was
will like hog your whole feed. Like there's like power scale videos all the time coming out, like most powerful toilets in the Skibidi toilet universe. Like
that's so funny, dude. Oh, I love power tier lists for like things that shouldn't have power tier lists.
Yeah. Well, this at least like kind of makes sense because it is like a war, like a thing that's happening. It's a story.
I guess, yeah. Or at least like from what I can tell, what's at it. I remember one video that I watched on YouTube that's really good is Ed and Eddie power tier list video.
Oh yes, I watched that too.
You did? I love that video so much. I'm actually making a video right now with a power tier list that I hope is gonna do well.
Really?
And I think it's gonna be kind of funny because you don't.
Zeez G2?
Yeah, I don't think most people are gonna think about like this series as like a power tier list thing, but I think it might be interesting. That video should probably come out sometime in like early August.
Are you keeping it a surprise for the viewers? So you're not saying what series it is?
For now, yes. For now.
Okay. Is it a series you've covered already on the channel?
No, it's not Amphibia the Owl House. I'll at least say that. It's not Amphibia the Owl House. I'm trying to somewhat move away from that. I think that's been pretty obvious as of recent. I'm gonna still like make videos on it. Like I actually do have 2 more videos coming out with Owl House, but I want to like move on to other things as well, where I still want that to be like videos that I make on occasion, but I don't want it to be like the only thing, of course. And just trying to adapt it has been a little tricky, I guess, which I knew it was coming, and I've done a pretty bad job of it so far. But
right.
I'm just trying to find like the next thing I really feel like I want to do a lot of videos on, because there are a lot of things that I am passionate about, but it's just like nothing is like trending, like a trending show that I'm super passionate about, I guess you could say. That's like ongoing, like the Owl House or Amphibia was.
Speaking of your Zeez G2 channel, I really liked your cursed animated clips video.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I know it did pretty bad, but I thought like those are, to me, I thought that was really cool. Just like the little examples you gave, and I like animation too, like obviously. And just seeing like really poor animation or like really funny animation is just interesting, especially because a lot of those are like unintentionally bad.
Right. Or it's just like, some of them are just like really like badly put together, bad scaling, bad pacing, or just like really awkward voice acting or something. It's just, they're fun to look at. They're definitely fun to look at, and I wanted to, and like all for different reasons too. That's like the best thing I think is like each clip has like something different that was funny about it. Like I still love the one that was just like the guy yelling "My daughter." Like I love that one so much, dude. I just think about that every once in a while. I'm just like, "My daughter." It doesn't make sense. You haven't seen the clip, but whatever. Go watch that video. It performed terribly.
It did. I'm looking at the views right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's not like under 3K views. So I was like, awesome. I made like $10 off that video. Cool. But you know, I thought about like making more videos, kind of like that, in the future. But I think that the bad thing about that video is it's not good from what I've researched, because it's very, I think, slow paced, I guess you could say. It's more like I think it's more like a pseudo reaction video. I think it basically is just a reaction video at that point, because I'm looking at it and then just kind of giving what I think about it, but it's not like using my face. It's using like the new PNG things that I've commissioned.
Right.
But I think those videos, the video I think like had pretty poor watch time, mainly because obviously I am still like in the sphere, in the algorithm spot of like Owl House and Amphibia, and I'm trying to like be more broad, I guess.
Right.
You know, like YouTubers like Saberspark or whatever, where they could talk about a variety of different topics, but they still have like a specific niche. Like I think Saberspark, for example, talks a lot about like adult animation or like really obscure animation that people don't really know about, but we'll still talk about like, you know, the latest film that just came out or whatever. And I kind of want to get to like something like that, but talk about just like other animated shows in general. I'm actually going to make a video on an Alvin and the Chipmunks movie.
No way.
Yeah, weirdly enough, it's going to be one of the older ones. It's called Trip Around the World. And the thing about that movie is that it's like a kid's movie, but like you can definitely tell that there's like a lot of like adult things in there, I guess. It's also very not good at portraying different cultures. In fact, it's quite bad.
So you're gonna criticize it?
Yes. I think it's gonna be an interesting video, or I think it's gonna be an interesting movie, because I'm gonna title it something that's like really, you know, I've been looking into like thumbnails and titles. I actually just uploaded a video about this yesterday.
The most racist Alvin and the Chipmunks movie of all time.
No. It's gonna be like I don't know like the title for it just yet, but it's gonna be like the kids movie kids should never watch or something like that. Or it's like,
ooh, that's a good one.
It's something like that, but I don't want to say kid 2 times. I'm gonna try and like figure out, I'm gonna play with it, but it's like, you know, it's something like that. Or because it's like, it is a kids movie, it's Alvin and the Chipmunks, but like kids shouldn't, I guess they can watch it, but it's like, you know, they shouldn't watch it because there's like, it like definitely depicts like the Chibettes in more mature ways than they should be at times. And like when it goes to like certain different cultures, they get to like Native American people, and it's like really bad, and it's like, oh, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like that Peter Pan level of stuff where it's like, you know, Disney has put out like a content ordinance, like this was a product of its time. This isn't how like this isn't like how Disney sees these people nowadays or whatever. It's like kind of like that. But like it's so odd because it also has like some good music. The animation is actually really good in that movie. It's really good. Like seeing some like the characters move is so fluid and nice.
Oh, so, the Alvin and the Chipmunks?
Yeah. And the older one, the anime, not like these, not like the.
So it's not
3Ds.
Like I was imagining like 3D CG one.
No, in the past there were like 2D animated ones.
Right. Okay. Cool.
And I think the movie was made in I want to say like 1986. I could totally be wrong about that. I can look it up real fast. But it's just a very fascinating movie, even though there's like a lot of bad things about it. So I thought it'd be like a fun thing to cover. 1987. Gosh dang it, 1 year off. But that's a movie that I think it could be really interesting because I don't think like it would really reach my target audience, but I feel like it'd be a good video that would perform well over time. Like I think it's actually gonna fail really badly because it's probably gonna be like a more analytical video, like going into it, like and also be like more humorous. But I think it's gonna perform really badly at the start and then do well over time if I can edit it and present it in the right way.
You know how like Mr. Beast, you talk about it all the time and we bring it up every podcast. This man,
Mr. Beast,
Mr. Beast will do like 5 really quick cuts that like preview or like set you up for expectations for later in the video. Like right at like the first like 10 seconds, like he'll like reveal like certain aspects to stay around for.
Oh yeah, I mean,
so maybe edit it that way, like almost be like maybe not in like 10 seconds, maybe not so fast, but you could do it like I don't know how you script it in, I guess, but like see how the chipettes are written as, or like how they're depicted visually, or how like offensive they portrayed this culture or something like that. Like this movie did this and that. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think the thing is
from our sponsors. Yeah,
no, I think I'm trying to like. I think what I've been trying to do, at least like recently, is like kind of capture that sort of like Mr. Beast, like immediately catch your attention right at the start, but also not feel like I'm being cringy and mainstream or whatever. Like I'm trying to still make it mine. So like, for example, I am editing a video right now and my original intro, I think was like 40 seconds. And I was like, this is so long. Most people already know what this video is. They already know what they clicked on for. They already know like what to expect. So I shortened the intro down to 8 seconds. And I think it actually works much better. And I made it like super snappy editing. And like the content of the video comes in at like 9 seconds in.
So
where the original cut came in like at 42 seconds. So I think it's going to really help with the watch time.
Video, or which video we're talking about?
This is I guess I could say it's the Owl House Kahoot video. It's an Owl House video.
Oh, got it.
But I think it's it's a video that I was making, and my original first cut was like I had this intro with tomato sauce in it, and he like introduced himself, and I was like, you know what? Let me just cut that out entirely because that's just bad. I realized that it was just bad. And I made the entire intro anew, and it's basically just me saying, hey guys, Owl House, can you win the quiz? So I try to open it by like being like, hey, can you do this? Like, can you prove yourself? Are you good? It's just like, I don't think you watched my most recent video on Zeez G3, but I talked about like titles and thumbnails, the intro to a video.
I might have.
I was talking like a lot about like
a little bit.
I was really talking about. I've been doing a lot of research. Yeah, I've really been looking into a lot of like, objectively good YouTube things. Like,
sorry, I clicked off at 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, okay, that's like 9 seconds. That's crazy. Yeah, no, I've just been going in, looking at like titles, thumbnails. The beginning of videos, making it super eye-catching, and like opening a curiosity loop for people to like want to watch till the end, and then working on editing to where like you don't stay on something longer than like 2 seconds or like 3 seconds. It's a little difficult to do with like a Kahoot video because you kind of have to for people to actually get time to read the questions. So I'm trying to find like a good balance in between that. But I think for like the next major video on that channel, it's just gonna be like so snappy, so fast, and like the problem is that takes a long time when you're working solo like me. But I want to see if it'll be good. I'm working more on quality over quantity, at least with the second channel. I think going forward, like I'll still have. I think I'm gonna do like have like 2 different series where I have like major videos and then more minor videos. Minor videos being like just talking about like a new show that came out. For example, a new show that came out, My Adventures with Superman. I could just make like a short 10-minute video being like, okay, this is like what happens in the first like 3 episodes or whatever. This is how I feel about the show. Stuff like that. And it'd just be like very
shorts video, but an actual video.
Yeah, it'd be like just like a 10-minute video.
Okay.
And it'd just be kind of going over like what I think about the show. And it'd be like kind of to hook on to like the trend and whatnot. And maybe just like sort of that. Just like, kind of get like what I think about the show out there. And then like leave like the more big videos to have like that really snappy editing. Whereas like the shorter, quicker ones will just have like less editing in it. But we'll still have, the same sort of like style, I guess. I don't really know how to explain it that well. I've really been like messing around with it recently.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of things like this is related to Zeez 3. I actually have a question about that channel that I didn't ask last episode. Why do you have Fire Emblem shorts on there?
Yeah, okay. That's actually a good question. Zeez 3 wasn't supposed to be Zeez 3 at first, actually. It was supposed to be like a storage/archive channel, and that's why it was supposed to be like gameplay videos that I could use for later. Because like what I like doing is uploading. You can see a lot of stuff like the beginning of the Clips channel as well, where I just had like gameplay, and I was like, okay, here's the thing. I have that gameplay on this channel, and I can always go and reference that gameplay whenever I need it. It was basically supposed to be that. So that's why there's a bunch of Fire Emblem shorts on there, and I'm actually moving all those shorts to like a different storage channel. And I feel like, storage channel doesn't really feel like it needs to exist, but it feels like something that I like having because it's really good for me to reference as like B-roll whenever I need it. For example, if I ever wanted to like make a video on like Fire Emblem Heroes, I would have like these specific videos all up, and it's just like kind of stuff for later. A lot of the stuff I feel like I do is just storing things for later, and then I can like reference it later, and it's helped out a little bit, but I still need to get to a state where I can use it properly, but it's a whole thing.
You were doing a lot of like this is like early before Zeez 2 took off. You would do those Let's Plays, and you would cut out like large segments of content, like where you were just grinding, right? And that's what you're putting on those archive channels, right? Kind
of. I think it's that was part of the grinding. Some of the other things I put up on there was just like dialogue moments or something that were like uncut, that like I wouldn't really like want to show off in a video unless I need to like specifically reference something. Or like, for example, I think one of them, let's say when a character levels up in a game, they say a specific voice line depending on how many like stats they get. They can be like, oh, I got no stats, or oh, I got so many stats, I'm feeling on top of the world today. And I feel it's like, if I wanted to do like a character analysis about that character, I could reference that, go back and get it. But I wouldn't want to like show that on screen because, nobody wants to see a guy go, I'm stronger today, like 50 times or whatever. So it's like, it's that kind of stuff. Where it's like, if I ever wanted to be like, because there are some character analysis videos that I'd like to do for some Fire Emblem characters. And like having that footage all be there to be like in like a bit of a B-roll or something is like super nice, because it would all be like in one place. I know exactly where it is. In the description, I would put like little tags to like remind myself of things. And then I'd be like, if anybody else wants to make use of this footage, you can do so as well. And I don't know, I just thought it would be like kind of cool because I like having stuff that I can reference to use for videos, I guess, to put in the background.
Yeah, you did a Fire Emblem analysis video once, right? I think it was like the start of your main channel, or you started a channel off by making an analysis video a long time ago, right?
Oh, yes, I do. That video was disgusting, by the way. I hated that video. I had fun making it, but that video was 100% scripted.
Yeah. And
it felt so robotic after I kept watching it back, because it was just me reading off a script, and I'm horrible at reading off a script. Horrible at it. So like my next scripted video is, which is the power tier list video. It actually has more bullet points that I have instead of just like outright, word for word. I just like, this is what I want to say at this point, but like make it funny. And then like make it funnier. Like do a take, think it's funny, then think about it for a little longer, try to make it funnier. Something like that. I'm just trying to like level up all the time, I guess.
Right. No, I get that. And I remember one of the YouTubers I'd listened to, he did this whole series where it was like long form videos, kind of like a podcast style, but he was recalling and like bringing up a bunch of points. And like people had asked him, and he said like, oh, I just kind of do it like I do with all my other videos, which are really tight videos. He's like, I just make bulletin points and then like sometimes sub bulletin points of every topic I want to discuss and like what order. And then I'm just like, I just look at it once and I just kind of train myself to loop in all that content, and then it sounds not robotic at all, right? Or it sounds a lot more natural.
That's impressive.
To do it that way, yeah. And that's probably, honestly, I'm surprised that you don't really have that talent. You kind of have the commentator brain. You talked about it before a little bit, just like through doing your commentator stuff. I'm sure there's always things that that are happening in the gameplay that you want to bring up, or I guess you're experiencing it the first time. A lot of them are blind reactions, so maybe not.
I think that's definitely just because that's where I started mainly doing videos with like the Let's Plays, so that's probably like where I excel. and I've always been bad at like reading off a script. Like literally back in our writing group that we were in high school, you would be the one to like read all the stories that people had made, and I remember I'd always wanted to do it, but I knew I was so bad at reading from a page that either I would have to ruin their story by overacting and like giving characters silly voices, or I'd be completely robotic. Like I barely have it in between, and I'm really bad at reading off scripts and whatnot.
Fair enough. I guess it feels kind of easy to me. Speaking of which, I don't do stuff like that anymore, but I do it. I'm very emotive. I really like being the, I guess it's not, I forget what the term is, but the person who the cards are basically, when we play Cards Against Humanity, I love reading people's cards. I'm very emotive or like analytical of people's cards. I try to make it like a show, and I think it's really fun. So.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely something your personality is like really suited towards. You're very much so. I don't want to say the hype man, but
I wouldn't call myself a hype man. That's a bit of a stretch, but I appreciate that. A little bit.
What I mean more is like, I feel like you're really good at like presenting or leading or getting a group unified or something. I forget, because I think a good example of this, you've done this like several times. Whenever I was like hanging over at Jonathan's place. Jonathan is one of our friends. And like we were playing video games down in Jonathan's basement, and we love playing Smash Bros together. And you would come down, and you were always like, hey guys, do we want to go do this? Or like, do we want to go do this thing? We have this thing, let's do this thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool, let's do these things. And then like half the group was like, nah, we just want to stay here. And the other half was like, yeah, we want to go do that. But like you're always like the main person to be like, yeah, let's go do this thing. And I always really respected that about you, because it's just like, for somebody like me, I'm really bad. I don't think I'm a bad leader, but I think I'm bad at like leading in friend groups, I guess. That's weird. But like in Boy Scouts, I felt like I was an okay leader, because like it's easier to lead people that I'm not friends with. Whereas like when I'm friends with somebody, it's harder, because I feel like, asking something of a friend, or like, I just think like the closer you are to somebody, it's harder to lead them, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
But like the way you do it, I don't know if leading is like the correct term, but it's just always like you're always, I guess, taking the initiative. I don't know. I've always really respected about you. I think it's like a really cool like personality trait or something.
That Jonathan example is perfect, I think, to an extent, because I go down there and I was like 2 or 3 hours late to hanging out with them like a couple weeks ago, and they were just down there watching YouTube, and I just derailed the whole thing. I'm like a train, like I'm like they're a train going down the track, and I'm like throwing the log on.
That's just something that you've like always, I don't know, been good at, I guess. Yeah,
no, I appreciate you saying that. That's really kind of you. No, yeah, for me, like when it came to Smash 2, it was, I guess I wouldn't say I'm horrible at fighting games, but like you guys played it. I didn't own a Switch. I never played Nintendo games very much. So you guys were like so much better at Ultimate. So it made it was impossible for me to play. Plus you guys would like never do something fun. Like you guys probably played time like once or twice. Like it was like your version of fun was like 3 stock on Battlefield only. Like
that's so. I think it's funny because back like I think like 2 years ago, I was like really into competitive Smash. Like I wanted to like go to tournaments and whatnot, and I still am kind of interested in that, right? But my interest has much more derailed into just like having fun with the game, going for like silly combos. I play with a lot more items nowadays because I just want to have fun, right? That's what I've been doing like with my streams right now. Sometimes I do like no items 3 stock for like some cool competitive games. But then sometimes I'll do like 4 people, everybody get on in here. We'll do teams or whatever. Just maximum chaos. And what I really fish for is literally just like a flashy, cool combo kill. I'll end up killing myself to like try and like do like a cool thing, and like whenever I end up dying or losing, because I just laugh it off. Like, and I've realized I've had more fun with that. Just like having fun with the game, not taking it like super competitively serious, even though I still have like that competitive drive in me. It's more fun like when there's just so much chaos and silly stuff happening, and it does help whenever you play like bigger characters like Donkey Kong and not like sweaty mains like my Byleth or whatever. But I get where you're coming from, because like especially like with like Jonathan and them, I would always love like bringing out like the competitive side. And it's also like the stuff that they enjoy more too. So it helps when I had like other people into it. But like when I've seen like more like, I guess, laid back videos, or like on YouTube, I've seen like other creators play more with items, and I'm like, yo, that actually looks fun. Why am I only playing like competitive? Like I should just be having more fun with it.
Pull teeth to get you guys to play random, or like something like that. Like where you didn't...
Okay. I always played random though. Jonathan,
you were great at it. I would like select your character if you remember, and you'd still beat them, and they'd get mad.
That's true. Well, it's because I just put too many hours in that game, honestly. Yeah. I was obsessed with it back in like 2020, 2021. And like even to a degree, I'm still obsessed with it now, but like I play it like so much less than I used to. I really only play it on stream nowadays. It's still fun though. But like just like when it comes back to like when you like came over, I don't know, you always like got the group to like do something more exciting, because like as much as I do love playing Smash Bros, you know, every time I go and like would play with like a friend group or whatever, and like with Jonathan and them, they would just always be playing Smash Bros. And like I love Smash Bros, but like sometimes I'm just like, is this the only thing we're gonna do? And I feel like if I'm the one to like come out and say, hey guys, how about we do this instead? Like nobody's gonna want to do it. They all just want to sit inside and play. But like it's always good when whenever you would come in, because you're always like that guy's like, all right guys, this is what we're gonna go do. Let's go, come on. It's like you don't even give them an option. Sometimes you're just like, this is what we're doing. Come on, we're going right now. And it's cool. It's really cool.
I've turned off their game systems in front of them before to get them to do stuff. But no, it actually has gotten a lot better too, because Jonathan and them have gotten more into board games, which I think is a lot more interesting and fun to do than play video games, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think the barrier to entry to board games is like 0. So
well, also like I don't know, it forces you to. I shouldn't say like smash your socializing. It's more real, I guess. Like it's more like your interactions with each other. But yeah, so like they're super into Catan. I'm really good at Catan, so I enjoy it. So I guess I shouldn't say I'm really good at it, but I'm okay at it enough. So yeah, it makes it more fun that way. That's like when I go to anime conventions, I usually hang out in tabletop, because I think that's like the most rewarding experience is the fact that you get to constantly play with new people, like board games or different games, mostly Werewolf, but yeah, at conventions.
Oh, for sure. And I've played Werewolf once. It's pretty fun. But I don't know. I'm just like, when I think about, for example, like if I think about hanging out with Jonathan, we keep using Jonathan as an example, but I've been to his house a lot of times.
Jonathan.
I literally think about Jonathan, and I'm like, if I am hanging out with Jonathan, 9 times out of 10, we are going to be playing video games together. And like 8 times out of 10, it's going to be Smash.
Right.
But then I think about hanging out with you, and it's like maybe 1 out of 10 times we're going to be playing video games. 1 out of 10 times we're going to be going to the park. 1 out of 10 times we're going to be going to roller coasters. 1 out of 10 times. It's like you mix it up a lot. We have lots of different like things that we can do. Whereas like I do value like Jonathan and you, like both. You're both my friends. But like it's just like, you know, whenever I know I'm going to be hanging out with you, I'm like, ooh, what are we going to do? You know, it's like more, it feels like this is going to be weird, but I feel like it's more like I'm living, whereas I'm not just like sitting in the basement playing video games. I don't know. Like, I like both things, right? I do. I love Smash. Jonathan's awesome. But it's like, you're really good at, you know, getting people to do things that aren't just the same thing over and over. I don't know. I don't even know what the word is that I'm looking for, but...
No, I get it. I really appreciate your kind words, Zeez.
I wouldn't even really say that it's more... I'm trying to say it out of kindness. I just think it's something that I've noticed about you that I think is cool, and something that I like wish I could adapt more of myself, I guess, as somebody who's like almost always in their room. Like the most I get outside is like to take a daily walk, which are fun, but that's the most of what I do when I get out, is I just take a walk outside, and that's about it.
See, if I don't have any elaborate thing to do, I don't even do daily walks. Like I just will like be inside and be depressed until I force myself to do something crazy. Like yesterday, I had no plans, and I knew that it was gonna rain in Cincinnati, so I went to Kings Island, and oh my god, I had such a great time. Like I met a bunch of people. I'm so glad I went, and I got so many good rides, and the park was so dead because of all the rain. It was a really great time to visit, and so like. Yeah, I don't know. I guess like for me, I struggle to like stay invested in a video game or like things internally. I also like kind of have a really bad setup here that like I think I've realized, especially like come winter, I need to make it like a lot better. Just like in terms of like just how to keep myself entertained, I guess by myself. Just because I'm gonna run out of things to do outside, and and I live 2 hours away from Jonathan and all of you guys, so it's harder for me just to hang out with you guys no matter like whenever. It's not hard actually. I honestly like almost any week I can come down if I'm not doing anything. But you know, I'm trying to be, I guess, more self-sufficient in my entertainment because I don't have a lot of people around here where I'm currently living and stuff like that. Speaking of stuff that we do with Jonathan and them, here's something really interesting to talk about. We just went to Anime Midwest. Zeez, you have only gone to right? That's the only convention you've been to?
I'm going to censor that because that's too close. But yes, I have been to that con. But I did go to, I think, Con Alt Delete.
Oh, you did?
That's right. It was in Chicago.
That was the one time I didn't go, right? Was it
No, you were there. You were there. It was
it
was like 2020 or something. It was a while ago. I've only been to 2 ones. I've been to the local one.
Chicago Con with you?
Yep.
Oh,
I was there.
Man.
But I didn't really hang out with you in that one that much because I was mainly in like because I went to the Smash tournament. I was mainly in like the gamer room. So you were probably, more in like the room that you said you like, tabletop or whatever.
Tabletop usually.
We were probably just in different locations most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I remember this. I knew you were there because I remember I slept next to the window in our hotel room. And I was freezing because I was literally right next to the window. I didn't bring a blanket or anything. And in the middle of the night, I turned up the heat, and I was like, oh, that's so much better. And then you woke up, you turned the heat back down, and then I froze again. So I was just like, you know what? I give up.
No way. There's no way that was me. I usually like warmer temperatures. No way.
It was you. Because I know you were sleeping on the bed that was next to me. Because I was sleeping on the floor next to the window. And the thermostat was like right next to us. And I know it was you because I saw you get out, and I didn't say anything. I pretended to be asleep. But I was like, gosh dang it, you turned the freaking heat back down. Now I'm cold again. It's just so funny, dude.
I hardly remember anything from that con. The thing I remember the most was we were going to, I think, the rave or something. We were going down the escalator in the Hyatt, and I was like dancing like this. There's people like walk around with like radios in their cosplay, right? And they were playing like some song, and I was dancing to it. And like I slammed my heel down. I was wearing flip flops, and then how escalators have like the sharp edges to them. I cut my heel open on the escalator going down there. I remember it was bleeding a lot. That's like my only memory of that con at this point.
That sucks, dude. I don't even know about that. How'd the most recent one go?
It went pretty well. It went really well. Something like that con, like the Con Alt Delete 2020. That was like when I was kind of like starting to get out of cons, like because we went to a bunch and I had felt like either I can't say I was too mature because that's like a stretch, man. But I felt like I was just like I just understood what the con experience was and I wasn't getting anything new out of it. And I felt as though like people were too young, maybe, or like it felt like it was a little childish almost, which is again weird to say. But when I started going back, the most recent convention I think I went to after the pandemic was Midwest last year in 22, and I didn't really enjoying it. And what I think this year's Midwest, I didn't go to Con Alt Delete in 22, by the way, because it was my same weekend as my graduation from college. So, the thing that I think I've realized is I think there's less young people going to conventions. I don't know if this is like true, but
are you sure they just haven't grown up?
I think
the past few years.
Yeah, I think that conventions just aren't popular with maybe younger people than they were before the pandemic. Because not to do that general stereotype, but like I don't really know how does socialization work. I guess with people who kind of lived through the pandemic and went to the high school through the pandemic. Maybe they're just like not as used to going to social events outdoors. I'm really am doing like a gross generalization, and I probably am.
Oh yeah.
But no,
I think there is like something to be said there.
I really felt as though nearly every person I talked to there was like 20 at minimum. Like I felt like maybe because I was hanging out on tabletop, I wasn't going to like cosplay stuff or like anime. I was gonna say
maybe it could also just be you have to find the right group. Like you have to find the right people to talk to as well.
Yeah, I think tabletop usually has an older crowd anyways. But I mean, even people walking around and just like talking to you randomly, it really felt as though they were kind of older than they used to be. Like the average age is just a little bit older. There's also less people going to cons since the pandemic.
Yeah,
Midwest is not nearly as big as it used to be. I don't really know about Call It Delete because I haven't been to Call It Delete since post-pandemic, but there's definitely less people going. It's not like tiny at all. There's still like over 10,000 people that went that weekend, last past weekend, but it just Midwest used to be like 16,000-ish, so it just felt like a lot bigger. But ASIN and then Anime Expo and a lot of the other like really big conventions are still utterly massive. Anime Expo in particular, man, they had it was so big they had like a huge issue.
Really? What happened? Yeah,
there was like one hall, like there's two halls that let out like two major events at the same time. And it caused like a crowd crush to occur in one of like the travel hallways, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. It was posted all over like Reddit. That's where I saw it there because people in like anime subreddits were talking about it. And I searched some more stuff up about it online, and yeah, some of the videos are pretty crazy. Just the amount of people that just got pushed in this hallway really randomly. Like people were stuck there for like 20 minutes, and like we're having like panic attacks and stuff. And yeah, there's so many people who go to Anime Expo. It's like over 100,000. It's just insane. So that's the big convention in LA, just for context.
Yeah, no, I've heard of it. That's crazy. I don't think I could go to something that large. That's even just like the Con Alt Delete one in Chicago. That was already pretty big for me, and even though that's like a
small con,
it's like a small one, but it was like big. It was big for me because that was like my first big one, like my first more major one, as opposed to like a more local one, I guess.
Right. Yeah, the local one in particular is very, very small.
Yeah, that was my first one, but then we went to that Con Alt Delete. I find it funny that you said the one in 2020 was like when you were kind of like getting bored of cons. Well, that was like my first one, like my first major one. So I thought, and that's a bit of interesting that you say like you were getting bored of it, whereas like I was getting pretty interested in it because that was my very first exposure to it, I guess you could say. And like I actually haven't been back to a con since that one. It's been a while, so I want to try and go to one eventually. I think I might want to go to like MomoCon next year because I heard the Creator Amphibia is going. I actually don't know, but I heard the Creator Amphibia is going there. I heard some like voice actors that I like following are going to be there, and I was like, that'd be maybe pretty cool to go to, depending on like where it actually is. I actually don't know. I just heard about it.
Yeah, if all these big creators are going, probably somewhere out west.
Yeah, no, I figure. And, I want to do more traveling. I want to get out of the house more. But, like I said, that's a whole issue in and of itself that I've already talked about. So I won't go into that.
Yeah, there's a couple of cons that I've never been to I like to go to. Something, too, like when it comes to our friend groups, like we have, like, outings, per se. So, like, going to amusement parks, going camping, going to cons is, like, the three, I guess you could say we do as outings. Maybe there's other, like, small trips and adventures, like when we go to Galloping Ghosts in Chicago. That's pretty fun.
Oh, yeah. That was a fun one, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you went. You made a video on it, too, yeah.
I did, yep.
The Ultimate Arcade.
Yep, that was it.
I'm doing a pose in the thumbnail. Yeah, so, like, that's another, like, I guess a niche example of an outing we do. But, like, I always felt like cons, I still agree to it to this day. I think that they're the weakest of the big three that we do. And they often are the most expensive of the big three we usually do. Now, mind you, they're awesome. I still love going to them, so I'll pay for them gladly. But, like, I think I get more out of camping, and then obviously I personally get more out of amusement park trips, so.
Oh, yeah. I think of my three, I actually have never gone camping with you guys, funny enough. Every time you guys have gone, I've always been busy, and I've always wanted to, because obviously I did Boy Scouts, and I've spent over 300 nights camping. That's great. Like, I think like a year of my life, I've literally been outside camping, and it's I don't think quite a year, but I think I'm like 50 days away. It's like literally 300 nights. And that's kind of crazy to think about, just throughout all of my time in Boy Scouts. And it's so fun. It's literally, I love camping so much, dude. Because, like, I think the best way to camp, in my opinion, is, like, bringing tents, like, no RVs, or people think, like, camping with an RV is cool. I don't think that's cool. I like tents.
No electric site, tent camping, yeah.
No electronics. No electronics. You can, I think what's fun, for me at least, because, like, what we would do in Boy Scouts is, usually we would head out to the campsite on Friday night, and then we'd come back at, like, Sunday afternoon. and then like obviously go back home. But what we would do, especially on like the long trips, is like we'd like get into cars. That's when we'd play our games, right? Because like you get everybody together. You could play on like your DSs or whatever, your phones. That's when you do like the electronics. But then you leave them all in the car, and then you go camping, and then you could come back to them, on Sunday if you still want to play it. But like you don't bring them on the camping trip. You just like focus on like the outdoors or whatever, like whatever trips you have planned, whatever events you have for that day. And I think that is far more rewarding.
Absolutely.
Than like just like bringing, like, let's say you Switch. Don't bring your Switch on a camping trip. I'm sorry,
dude. We have a friend that I'm sure you know about that brought their whole TV and all this setup and all this kind of. I know you know who I'm talking about, so I'm not gonna name drop it. Yeah, so something similar to that. It's not very cool or fun. Speaking of like friends like that, I think I'm surprised I've never gone camping with you. And another friend I've never gone camping with, who's like probably more into camping than even you are, probably, is Eric. Because you mentioned him earlier.
That's true.
I've never gone camping with Eric. You should seriously talk, like, because he just graduated with a degree of forestry. You should go.
He wants
and
to be like a
talk to
park
him.
Ranger.
Well, not park ranger exactly. He actually got a job recently in southern Indiana in a national forestry
Interesting
thing with the government. So yeah, he actually is going to be working soon, and he's also going to be 10 minutes away from Holiday World. At least the town he's working in is. So
gotcha.
Hey, coaster trips on top of it. So I'd love to go camping with him because I've gone to plenty of parks with him, and he's just so incredibly knowledgeable about plants, and especially trees. If you talk, like, he is just so knowledgeable about trees. It's really, really impressive. He was a TA for 3 years of dendrology, which is like the study of trees. Yeah, and like the identification of trees. Like he even like started and was a officer of a dendrology or like tree club at Purdue or something like that. So
that is impressive, yeah. And for a bit of a background, like this friend that we have, Eric, I met him through Boy Scouts, and then I met him through school. It was so funny because like he was from a different troop. When I met him out like just in the woods, I became friends with him out there. Then I saw him in like middle school. Then I didn't really see him for a while. Then we had like 2 classes together, our junior and senior, and we became really good friends. And it was just like, it's always so funny. We just see each other in like weird spots. But I think he's one of the only people that like, I guess I shouldn't say only people. He was also an Eagle Scout because I also achieved my Eagle Scout. So awesome moment. But it's just like I don't know that many that actually like kept going until getting their Eagle Scout, because a lot of people in Boy Scouts like drop off. So it's cool to know that like I still know like about Eric. I haven't talked to him in a while. I should. I don't actually have his contact, but
I can set you up.
It would be fun. It would be fun because just like seeing him in school and then like seeing him in Scouts, it was always just so, I guess, odd because we just kind of like got to compare stories or whatever. It was fun.
Yeah, we should definitely plan a camping trip sometime. That would be really, really fun. And again, I like doing the non-electric sites because they're cheaper and it's not very expensive to go camping. So. It's always. I actually don't own a tent. I've relied on other people my entire life to give me housing.
I've got one. Well, I got one in my old house. I'd have to actually borrow it from my dad because it's technically my dad's. But I could maybe do something like that. One thing that I will say about the electronic things, though, I do, at least for Boy Scouts, the one electronic that was allowed was cameras. So I would still probably bring a camera. But I think cameras are fair game, but it's a camera, not a phone camera, like a camera. So all you can do is take pictures and video. You can't like, surf the web or whatever. Just cameras.
I bring my phone to take pictures, and I don't like, obviously, like when you're in parks, there's no like reception ever.
Oh,
so
for sure, yeah.
I'm not like browsing anything, and I use my the cars to charge my phone usually, but I'll just use it for pictures, and then like in emergency situations, like it's good to have.
Yeah, of course. Like obviously, when we went like, with Boy Scouts, all the kids would leave their phones in the car, but all the parents would have like their phones for like emergencies or whatever. That's how we would do it. So the kids would have their perfect like no electronic sort of space where all the adults would worry about like what happens during an emergency and stuff like that. But kids, the only thing they could have is like an actual camera. That was the only electronic that was allowed. And I thought that was so cool, especially since I was the cameraman. So I was the cool one. I could go on for hours about camping. I probably shouldn't. This podcast has already gone on long enough. It's nearly been 2 hours. It's probably the longest one, actually, now I think about it. But
really?
Yeah, there's just so much good stuff to talk about. I swear, dude.
Before we end, I have to ask you, Where's your favorite place you've gone camping? I know you've gone to a lot of really interesting places. Probably, I've never gone outside the state to go camping actually. So,
that's hard. That's hard. 'Cause I've been all over. Well, there are the 4 big high adventure bases for Boy Scouts. There's Northern Tier, Summit, Sea Base, and freaking. Why am I forgetting the biggest one, bro? New Mexico land, Philmont. Northern Tier is Minnesota, Canada. Sea Base is down in the Florida Keys. The Summit is in. I already forgot what the Summit was in. Whatever, doesn't matter. And then Philmont is in New Mexico. So each place are around the USA, and each one is really, really fun. I think Summit is probably the least interesting one because it's literally just in a kind of mountainous area. And it's mainly attractions for Boy Scouts, like zip lines. It actually is the biggest zip line in the US, which is cool.
Oh, awesome.
I never actually... I did get to ride it. It was really fun. I got to ride it one time. It was really, really fun, actually. You get to zip line over a huge lake. It's super fun. Northern Tier is based on canoes. And you ride up in the Canada area. It's the only time I've been out of the US actually is on a trip when I went to Canada. Just in the the swampy, not really swampy, but the river areas. It was actually really beautiful.
Ontario, or where else were you? Saskatchewan, or?
I forget the name of it off the top of my head. I'll put it in editing. But it's right next to Minnesota, honestly. I was only maybe 10, not even 10 miles deep into Canada, maybe 5.
So it's it's where the millions of lakes are, right? Just there's nonstop little lakes.
Yeah, but there's there's lots of little islands, and it's so fun. It's so fun up there. And I think there the stars were so beautiful, and so also out in New Mexico, in the mountains, they're so beautiful. You just look up and there's no light pollution at all because you're so far away from civilization, and the stars are absolutely beautiful, dude. You can see so much of it as long as it's not cloudy. The bad thing about Northern Tier though is there are so many mosquitoes that they block out the moon, so that was the one bad thing. They're so bad. Oh my gosh, you'd look up and they'd literally just be everywhere, dude. It was awful.
So you're just bathing in repellent all weekend or all the entire trip, yeah.
Yeah, there were certain events that we'd have to do, and what we would do was we would just be slapping ourselves as the events were going on because there were so many mosquitoes. It was awful. It was the same thing down in Sea Base as well. There were these little bugs that loved hopping in and out of seaweed. I forget what they're called, but since we were on an island down there, a Mr. Beast island, there was so much seaweed that just collected on the shore. And whenever we had to take an event there, all these little bugs would be hopping at our feet. So we'd literally walk around in a circle while doing events. It was just stupid. So I know I'm going off topic here, but there's, like I said, when you say where's my favorite place to camp, I think about all the places I've been camping, and it's too hard. I think I might just have to go with the classic with all the Boy Scouts is in New Mexico, where Philmont is. Yeah, that sounds
the best from how you've been describing it.
It's the biggest Boy Scout camp in the world. It's so much fun. So many things to do there. I could talk about Philmont for hours, dude. So I'm not gonna. But maybe for a different podcast. It's a great place though. If you are a Boy Scout and you have any opportunity to go to Philmont at all, take it. It's worth it. It really is.
When was the last time you camped?
Let's see. I think 2021. So around 2 years.
Since leaving Boy Scouts, you've camped.
Have I? No, actually, I haven't camped outside of doing Boy Scouts. I think my last camp out was in I think 2021 with an event.
Wow, man. You really got to go camp again.
I do. I really do. It's been over 2 years now. I think about it, and it's so funny because I step outside and I smell the trees. I'm like, man, I need to get out more because my heart really still is among nature. I feel a lot of the time, and being cooped up in my room is definitely not good for me. But whatever. This podcast has gone on for 2 hours. Is there anything else that you have to say before we close off?
Not at all. Just sort of the same thing I closed off with last time. Thank you again for supporting my friend, and yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you all for listening. Thanks
Absolutely.
for that. And I guess I'll see you all hopefully next week on a Sunday this time with maybe a multi-person podcast. We'll just have to see if I can schedule it this time properly. But that'll be it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.